Welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Grizzly, and today I'm going to offer you a summary of everything that's been going on in the case against Stephan Sterns. There's been a few court hearings recently. There's a lot of back and forth going on between, of course, the state and the defense, and it's left some people confused or pressed for time. Not everyone has 3 hours to just watch a court hearing and then to just make sense of it all. So let's do that. Let's bullet point exactly what happened there, what happens next, and when his trial will be. Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. So, the state of Florida versus Stephan Sterns. Just to recap quickly who this guy is. He is a 39-year-old male. He turns 39 on April 25th of 2025. So at the time of this recording, and when you'll probably be watching it, although you never know, it's April 24th. That's the day before his damn birthday. So I'm just going to say he's 39 because if you're watching this, tomorrow or any time in the future, he's a 39-year-old male. You wouldn't think because he's kind of a 39-year-old man-child. Yeah, he complains about everything. He's always the victim. And yes, if you want to see much more about him, if this is the first time that you've ever heard of this guy, please check out the link in the description box. You'll find my playlist there, and there you will find a summary of the case. You will find deep dives, document read-throughs, police video interviews, police audio interviews, and even all the chronological police audio interviews that they referenced in this latest court hearing. So, before I actually continue to dive into this, let me say that this case does come with a trigger warning because it does discuss the sexual abuse and murder of a little girl, Madeline Soto, who was last seen alive on February 25th of 2024. That was actually her 13th birthday party. She turned 13 on February 22nd of 2024. Yeah, and she had her birthday party at her grandmother's house, and then her freaking mother invited her ex-boyfriend over. Stephan Sterns came over, as in Jen Soto's ex-boyfriend, came over to, she says, help take Madeline to school the next day because she needed some good rest. But Jen Soto had 2 days off, so I don't know what she needed all that rest for, but okay. But the worst is that Jen Soto, Madeline Soto's own mother, sent Madeline and Stephan upstairs, saying, you go upstairs and you sleep in that room up there because I'm going to need a good night's rest. Yeah, sent her 13-year-old upstairs there. And guess what? Her 13-year-old ended up murdered. And also it came out that, Jen Soto's boyfriend, who was the ex-boyfriend at the time, they already broke up in mid of 2023, and he'd already moved to this upstairs bedroom, since June of 2023, and then he moved out in December of 2023. So I hate that he was even there in the first place, but ex-boyfriend sent upstairs to sleep in a bed with Madeline Soto, and it turns out he had been sexually abusing her according to evidence that they found on his phone, which is a big part of the arguments that we're going to be summarizing today. Yes, for years, at least since she was like 8 years old. How sad is that? Okay, so the trigger warning has been stated. Also a YouTube disclaimer, of course. This content is for educational purposes and for adults only. So now let's dive into all these details, and we will also re-look at the clip of where Stephan Sterns testified. I've added some, captions to it so we can hear what the hell he says, because he just about gobbled up that entire microphone and we couldn't hear a damn thing. So I've worked as much as I can with my software so that we could try to hear what the hell he said. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. So Stephan Sterns is a 39-year-old male turning 39 on April 25th of 2025. He is accused of sexually abusing and murdering Madeline Soto, who had just turned 13 when she was strangled. He faces 2 trials and the death penalty if convicted. Now the first trial date, as you can see, has changed. It was for May 5th of 2025. Now it has been delayed. It is now set for July 14th of 2025. That is a CSAM related charges trial. CSAM stands for Child Sexual Abuse Material. And so it's a more appropriate term than CPA, PORN, right? Okay, so you'll see a lot of legal filings, especially going forward. We'll call it CSAM. Then, the murder trial is taking place, supposedly, starting on September 22nd of 2025. Now, as I warn you, I always tell you, pencil those dates in. Don't write them in pen, because they are subject to change. And this time, I really thought, you know what? This first trial probably is going to happen on May 5th. But no, it's been delayed. So what was the outcome of that hearing? Well, firstly, the trial has been delayed. The judge will decide on what happens next. He's going to rule on the motions that were argued by June 30th of 2025. So yeah, we've got a while to go. Okay, so spoiler alert there, because that's coming up in the presentation. Now let's go over what was found on Stephan Sterns' phone, because this is, of course, a huge topic right now. The defense is trying to get all the evidence found on his phone thrown out. If they successfully do so, they won't be the first trial. But don't worry, there will still be the second trial, because he's facing murder charges, right? Because a lot of people panic about what if they get this evidence tossed out, which in my personal opinion, I don't think they will, because he consented big time to everything. Okay, and he's a grown-ass man. He was 37 years old. I mean, no, he said they can download his phone. To me, the consent is a huge deal. I know that search warrants are a huge deal, and obviously everybody has their rights. But he consented. They asked him and he consented. Okay, so anyway, the point is, even if they succeed, they being the defense, in tossing this evidence out, yeah, okay, well, there's still a trial coming up in September in which he faces the death penalty for murdering a 13-year-old girl. All right, so anyway, let's go over now what evidence was found on his phone, because that is the biggest topic right now and what the hearing was all about. So during the investigation into the disappearance of 13-year-old Madeline Soto in February of 2024, law enforcement seized and searched Stephan Sterns' Samsung Galaxy phone, leading to the discovery of significant evidence related to the CSAM evidence. Now, oh my goodness, the CSAM evidence, they found on the phone evidence supporting 60 CSAM related charges, with each charge representing 10 or more images or videos. So this suggests that there's at least 600 items, though exact numbers may be higher. They've actually quoted in documents 1,700 images and or videos. Some of those videos contain Stephan Sterns' face. Some of them show a freckle that he has on his you-know-what, which is how they know it's him as well. Okay, so the material included images and videos depicting the sexual abuse of a minor, specifically linked to Madeline Soto. Reports indicate the content showed Sterns sexually abusing Madeline over an extended period, starting when she was younger, potentially as early as age 8, and continuing until shortly before her death. Yeah, right up to. Because they said that in some of the images he was wearing a red shirt, and they saw the bedding, and they saw all sorts of things that really alluded to, and not just alluded, actually showed in the document that he made content that night, her last night alive. So that is, oh my goodness. We've already gone into so many details. I could go off on a tangent, but I'm going to try to stay focused on my own bullet points, because I could go and discuss the DNA evidence that they found and the CSAM evidence that they found, all of that, but we've already gone over that quite extensively. So today we're summarizing what all this phone evidence is about, what did they find, when did they find it, all of that, right? So the CSAM was recovered from data that repopulated on the phone from Sterns' Google Cloud account after a factory reset or two. He factory reset his phone twice, yeah. So despite Sterns resetting his phone twice, on February 26th of 2024, to allegedly destroy evidence, the data was preserved because the phone was placed in airplane mode, preventing further syncing or deletion. They explained that at the April 23rd hearing, that law enforcement actually put the phone in airplane mode after they'd seized the phone, so that anything that had already resynchronized from his Google Cloud account could not be deleted if he went elsewhere and tried to log into that account and delete the evidence. So it had repopulated on the phone, airplane mode goes on, stays on the phone. So that was quite interesting to hear actually yesterday. So if you missed it, you could still go and watch that court hearing. It's right there on the playlist, right? Now, the location and timeline data. Police initially searched the phone for location data. That's very important to remember because Stephan Sterns and his defense are making like, oh no, they went through his phone unlawfully and found all this stuff. But they weren't looking for that. They were looking for location data to verify Sterns' movements on February 26th of 2024. The day that Madeline went missing, because this was a missing child investigation. And he was being so damn shady that they were really looking at him like, what the hell, dude? Why are you lying about where you were? Why are you lying about your location? We have you on video surveillance. Like, what is going on here? We need your phone to check your location data. So they said they found minimal location data and call history, which raised suspicions due to the factory reset. The limited data contradicted Sterns' claims about his whereabouts, for example, dropping Madeline at school, as tag reader evidence showed his vehicle traveling in the opposite direction toward Kissimmee and St. Cloud, Florida. He disposed of Madeline's body in St. Cloud, an area that he didn't actually ordinarily go to, and he got a flat tire there, and he disposed of her body in a tree line of bamboo. And he actually went back there the next day as well. So, okay, so communication records. Again, I'm not going to go off on a tangent. I could and explain all that, but let's just focus. Communication records. So interactions with Madeline. The phone contained evidence of extensive late-night communications between Sterns and Madeline Soto, which investigators found suspicious. These communications were part of the broader investigation into their relationship and Sterns' role in her disappearance. He said that she thought of him as a father figure. I highly doubt that. He also said that he and Jen Soto used to joke about Madeline having Electra complex, as if the daughter of his adult girlfriend has a crush on him. And he said that Jen and Maddie used to look at him, oogle him, talk about how nice he looked. I also highly doubt that. Right? Like, you wish, dude. But oh my goodness, the things that this guy says, wow. If you haven't listened to the jail calls, yeah, check them out on the playlist. There's ones with no commentary for those who don't want commentary. There's ones with my commentary if you're into that. I snark a lot. Okay, so they said call history. The call log was nearly empty, showing only calls from February 27th of 2024 due to the factory reset, which Sterns claimed was accidental. But it was then already obviously viewed as an attempt to conceal evidence, which clearly it was, and that's why I believe he was so happy for them to search the phone. He was like, sure, go through it, because he thought he got rid of evidence with his clever little 2 times factory resetting, huh? That's why, otherwise he would have said no, because they said, can we download your entire phone? Can we go through it, or do we need a search warrant? He said, no, it should be fine. Go re-listen to the audio interviews, right? So, Google Cloud synced data. After the factory reset, the phone automatically repopulated data from Sterns' Google account. Important to know as well, because they're making like, oh no, how dare they take his phone? And then they look into his Google account and find all this. Because of his factory reset, the dumbass forgot that his Google Cloud account is going to resynchronize and repopulate what he had tried to delete in the first place. So when it was turned back on, yeah, it repopulated. This included the CSAM, which was not accessible on the phone's surface due to the reset, but then was recovered through forensic analysis. So that's why then they put it on airplane mode, because they're like, holy crap, this is like syncing with his Google Cloud account, and like, oh my word, look at all this. They did not expect to find that. They were looking for clues as to where Madeline could be, not looking for CSAM evidence. It must have been a real shock, really. So the Google Cloud data was critical, as it preserved evidence that Sterns attempted to erase, including the CSAM and potentially other incriminating files. I can't imagine what all they actually found. So, forensic download. The Orange County Sheriff's Office Digital Forensics Unit conducted a full file system extraction, recovering data not immediately accessible to the user. This process revealed the CSAM and other evidence that had been backed up to the cloud. And that was after Stephan Sterns consented for about the 5th time, okay? First he consented they could check his maps. Then he consented they can check his call history. Can they take a picture of it? Yes. Then they say, we're going to keep your phone, okay? Is that okay with you? Yes. Okay. Can we download your phone, everything on it, or do we need a search warrant? He said it's fine. So that's my argument. He consented. So that overrides everything else, in my opinion, right? Tell me what your opinion is. So then a subsequent Google search warrant. People make like they never got a search warrant at all, but they did eventually get that as well. So a subsequent Google search warrant provided further data corroborating the phone's contents, though the defense argued that this was tainted by the initial search. Yeah, that wasn't that clear in that hearing yesterday. But they not only got Stephan Sterns' consent, but later also got a search warrant, and then it confirmed everything they'd already seen from his phone, synchronizing. So then additionally, remember this, a USB drive was found later at Sterns' parents' home. It was actually in a storage unit, and it contained 35,000 CSAM images, suggesting a pattern of behavior, though this was not directly from the phone. We're going to talk more about that later in this presentation, because a lot of people are wondering, okay, well, if they toss out all the evidence on the phone, what about that? Yeah, well, let's talk about that as well. That was found in April of 2024. But first, how was the evidence discovered? The initial search, February 27th of 2024. Detectives Tagler and Acosta, who both testified on April 23rd, 2025 in that hearing, obtained Sterns' consent to check his phone for Google Maps and history during a missing child investigation. They noticed the factory reset and sparse data prompting further scrutiny. Seizure and forensics. The phone was seized at 8 p.m. on February 27th, placed in airplane mode and forensically downloaded starting at 2:28 a.m. on February 28th. The download, completed by Sergeant Darko Stamnik, who also testified yesterday, revealed the CSAM when the Google Cloud data repopulated. The investigation then obviously took a huge shift. The discovery of CSAM shifted the investigation from a missing person case to include CSAM charges, with the murder investigation later confirming Madeline Soto's death. Her body was found in St. Cloud, Florida on March 1st of 2024, meaning that's why he was arrested so quickly on February 28th. Remember, people were wondering why was he arrested when they hadn't found her body yet? Because they'd already found all the CSAM evidence. So he was initially charged with sexual battery, and then as they went through everything, he was charged with those 60 counts of CSAM, right? Each count representing 10 or more images or videos. So that's what he was charged with, and it actually took until April of 2024 to charge him with murder, because that was another huge investigation. And as I say, I don't think that they were expecting this layered, like, whoa, like all the CSAM. I don't think anyone was expecting that, even though we all could see from day one that Stephan Sterns was very shady. Now, what about the USB drive? So in April of 2024, Chris Sterns found a USB drive in his storage unit, and he handed it to law enforcement. It had 35,000 CSAM images on it. From what I gather, from everything I've read, it's not including Madeline Soto. Well, the Madeline Soto content seems to have been on his phone. But we don't know. We don't have that much clarity on those images. And we're not hearing too much about it. They've kind of just pushed that aside for now. But I hope that he will eventually get charged big time for that. We've recently seen the FBI bust a whole CSAM ring. So if you didn't see that live stream, I will link that below for you. A lot of people are wondering if, for example, that USB led to the discovery of other, of the same kind of people as Stephan Sterns that are producing it, selling it, all of that, right? And if that led to other arrests. Could be. I don't know. It could also just be that there's many of these types around, right? So the current 60 CSAM-related charges against Sterns set for trial on July 14th of 2025 appear to be based solely on the evidence recovered from his phone. Prosecutors may have chosen to focus the current charges on the phone evidence because it was directly tied to the initial investigation into Madeline Soto's disappearance and murder, and it specifically included material involving her. right? So that makes sense for us. That also, I'm just asking myself, why would they not include this? Okay, they don't want to muddy the waters. They don't want to now include that as well. They don't want to delay anything. They want to focus on the victim, Madeline Soto, for now. But I really hope he will get charged for all this as well. Including the USB drive's 35,000 images could complicate the case, requiring additional forensic analysis, authentication, and legal arguments, potentially delaying the trial. The phone evidence directly links to Madeline Soto, strengthening the narrative of Sterns' abuse of her. So it'll be easier to relay all this to a jury, right? The USB drive was found at Sterns' parents' storage unit, not in his immediate possession, which could raise defense challenges about whether Sterns knowingly possessed or controlled it. The phone, however, was undeniably his, with CSAM linked to his Google account and password or passcode protected access, making it a stronger evidentiary foundation. Can you imagine if they're trying to get his phone evidence out, how hard they try to get that out? Because they'd be like, how do we know it doesn't belong to the dad? Or how did he find it? Or whose is that really? How can you prove that it's tied to him? Because the ones on his phone, you can prove are connected to him because of the freckle I mentioned earlier, and his face in some of them, his voice in some of them. Yeah. So the USB drive evidence might be reserved for additional charges in a separate case or as an aggravating factor in the murder trial. Given the strength of the phone evidence and the urgency of the CSAM and murder trials, prosecutors may have prioritized the most direct evidence. The USB drive's contents might still be under forensic review to determine their origin, relevance, and admissibility. If the images include additional victims or new crimes, I mean, that's another question I have. Are the other victims? We know that he was filming the roommates in Jen Soto's house under the door without their consent either, just filming them like a freaking voyeur. What was he doing with that? Was he uploading that anyway? Sharing it anyway? What was he doing? Let's start this sentence again. The USB drive's contents might still be under forensic review to determine the origin, relevance, and admissibility. If the images, there we go, include additional victims or new crimes, this could lead to separate charges or federal involvement. Example, the FBI for interstate CSAM distribution. The volume of CSAM on the USB drive, 35,000 images, suggests possible distribution or production, which could fall under federal jurisdiction. Federal authorities might be investigating the USB evidence separately, as it could involve interstate or online activity, leading to charges distinct from the state's phone-based case. If federal charges are pending, state prosecutors might avoid duplicating efforts, focusing on the phone evidence for the state trial while federal authorities handle the USB evidence. Now, if you have been following Madeline Soto's choir teacher's case with me, yeah, her choir teacher was also arrested. Those were federal charges. He had been enticing minors online, and he's just recently pleaded guilty. So one of my most recent live streams, we actually go over that and the charges, the sentencing that he's facing, up to 35 years and all of that. So there you could see those were federal charges. Maybe Stephan Sterns will eventually face federal charges too. Now, the hearing on April 23rd of 2025 was a motion to suppress evidence hearing. As I could see there, you look, April 23rd, 2025 is when it took place. So I don't know when you're watching this, but if you watched it with me, thank you so much. There were 12,000 people there watching that hearing with me, all of us enduring the horrible audio from the court feeds. Thank you so much for enduring that, especially for the first, as I said, 20 minutes or so. After that, it got a little bit better. Now, the defense filed 3 motions. Number 1, the motion to suppress evidence from the unlawful seizure of the cell phone. Then, motion to suppress evidence from the unlawful search of the cell phone. And then a motion to suppress evidence from a Google search warrant. We went over all of those documents from the defense's motions and then the state's response. So that's also on the playlist if you want to check it out. But this is the summary. What the hell were they arguing? The 3 motions. That's what this hearing was about. The unlawful seizure of the phone, the unlawful search of the phone, and to suppress evidence from the Google search warrant. The CSAM evidence is, of course, central to the trial, now scheduled for July 14th of 2025, and its admissibility depends on the judge's ruling on the suppression motions from April 23rd. When will he rule on that? He said by June 30th of 2025. So, wow, by June 30th, well, we're patiently waiting for that. What will he rule? What do you think he's going to rule? I don't think he's going to suppress this evidence. I think he's going to allow it in because Stephan Sterns consented. Also, let me mention that today, on April 24th of 2025, I will be on Court TV at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're watching this in the future, maybe you could find it on Court TV on the YouTube channel. But if you're going to watch live today, then it is at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on courttv.com, the website. You go to the website, you click watch live, right? And we're going to be discussing all of this. So the motion to suppress evidence from the unlawful seizure of the phone. So remember those 3 bullet points I just gave you? We're now going to go through each one and summarize what the hell happened in that courtroom, okay? So the defense argued that the phone was seized without a warrant, consent, or exigent circumstances. They claimed that Detective Tagler unilaterally took the phone at 8 p.m. on February 27th of 2024 without Sterns' consent, dismissing his concerns about contacting his mama and papa. Parents. He wanted to call his daddy. Like, what the hell? How's he going to call his dad? And they're like, you can use Jen's phone. Anyway, so the defense asserted that the seizure lasted several hours until the phone was sent to forensics, exceeding reasonable time limits, and they cited a law case, right? So they argued that no exigent circumstances existed since the phone was factory reset, suggesting evidence was already destroyed. I don't understand why they say that because... Okay, no. From all the true crime cases we've watched, no, it's not already destroyed. They can get it, which is how they got it, which is why we're here today. You know what I mean? So I would like to say nice try, defense, to that one. To anyone that's going to say, the defense is just doing their job, Grizzly. I know. And I'm doing mine by making commentary. And I'm just like, the rest I could hear. But that, no. Saying that there were no exigent circumstances. I think there were, because there was a missing 13-year-old and the dude had already tried to factory reset his phone twice. What the hell was he hiding? And wow, just look at what he was hiding. The second one, the motion to suppress evidence from the unlawful search of the cell phone. Remember, the first one was the unlawful seizure. Second motion, unlawful search. The defense claimed that Detective Tagler exceeded the scope of Sterns' consent during on-scene searches. I saw that's where opinions get divided. People do think they were sneaky. They went too far. They searched too much. That he said you could search the Google Maps and the call history and nothing more. But he didn't say that. They literally asked, do you mind if we download your entire phone or do we need a search warrant? And he said it's fine. So anyways, they stated that Sterns only consented to specific actions, checking Google Maps, photographing his history, and verifying his Google login, not a full phone search, including call history or photos. I think that he consented to all of that. If you listen again, go listen again. You've got homework to do. Grizzlies, you have homework. Go listen to those audio interviews. I've actually done a few videos. You'll see on the thumbnail, it'll say like unlawfully seized his phone. I've done a few videos like that, and we actually re-listened to some of those interviews. So I found the exact clips for you. And yeah, it was interesting to read your comments to see what you all think. So they argued that the forensic download lacked valid consent, citing coercion due to Sterns' circumstances. For example, being surrounded by law enforcement, and the defense highlighted that they had guns, but I mean, no, they're law enforcement. They've arrived, okay? They questioned this guy. Also, they said that he was unable to leave. They never said that he was unable to leave, but okay. That he was in flip-flops at night. That one got me, oh my word. Flip-flops! He was in flippy floppies at night. Shame. It was 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 10 to 15 degrees Celsius in Florida. I wouldn't call that freezing. He's also, again, I'm going to say, a grown-ass man who could dress his damn self. If he chose to wear flippy floppies and khaki shorts, that's how you guys say, we say khaki in South Africa, but okay, khaki shorts and a hoodie, that's on him. If his toesies were getting cold, That's on him. If your toes are getting cold, you don't just suddenly consent to, sure, you can just look through my entire phone. You know what I mean? So, okay, I think that argument's a little weak. They also said he was medicated, he took Ativan, and he was stressed. Yeah, one would be stressed after allegedly murdering a child. And then knowing that, oh crap, law enforcement's got my phone. Right? Okay, so they referenced Ramirez factors, arguing a reasonable person would not feel free to refuse consent under these conditions. He's grown. He's all grown. You can. Even if they don't feel comfortable, you can. You can still say, no, you're not searching my phone. No, I'm not giving you my passcode. No, you don't have the right to do that. And then they would have to get a search warrant, which they would have gotten. But the dumbass was like, sure, because he was overconfident with his factory resetting, in my opinion. The third one was the motion to suppress evidence from the Google search warrant. The defense argued that the Google warrant was invalid as it relied on illegally obtained phone evidence. Like, how did they even know to get that warrant? Yeah, after seeing that on his phone, after the Google Cloud automatically synchronized itself. That's what they're arguing is like, no. It relied on illegally obtained phone evidence. They claimed that the warrant lacked probable cause, was technically defective, and used boilerplate language without sufficient nexus to the crime. Yeah, no, I disagree. We're all looking at him. When Maddie went missing, well, we're looking at him and Jen Soto. I think we're still looking at two of them, right? But only one of them has been charged, and that's a story for another day. So they asserted that no attenuation or intervening circumstances purged the taint of the initial illegal search or seizure. Okay. The state's response was, let's talk about the seizure of the cell phone. They asserted that the seizure was justified by probable cause and exigent circumstances, the fear of evidence destruction, because he'd already tried to do that. They highlighted Sterns' inconsistent statements, the tag reader data showing his vehicle traveling away from Madeline Soto's school, and the factory reset as evidence of attempts to destroy evidence. I think that's valid. They noted the phone was placed in airplane mode to prevent remote deletion, preserving Google Cloud data that repopulated after the reset, and they distinguished US versus place, arguing probable cause existed from the outset, unlike the reasonable suspicion in place. So again, citing other legal cases. The search of the cell phone. They argued that Sterns gave voluntary, broad consent multiple times. I heard it with my own ears. Did you? Did you hear it? I think he did. He gave broad consent multiple times, unlocking the phone, handing it over, and agreeing to a forensic download. They emphasized that Sterns never limited or withdrew consent, which I think is important as well. Like, did he at any point get really uncomfortable and say, you know what? No, I take it back. I'm not going to consent to that. No, he didn't. Okay? Obviously, because he didn't want to look guilty either. He was playing it cool. But now he wants to what? Spit his pacifier out? Oh, please. You played it cool to the point where you consented to everything, dude. Then you can't be upset about what they found on your phone. Anywho, Uncle Google's gonna get you, right? So they said he never withdrew consent. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Detective Tagler during searches and did not object to her actions. They stated the term history was general, not limited, and Sterns' cooperation, providing his passcode. So it showed his voluntariness. Then they rejected the coercion claims, noting that Sterns was free to leave. He wasn't handcuffed, and he was left with Jennifer Soto after the second interview. Yeah. So I don't know if that qualifies as coercing him into like, give us your passcode. It's my birthday. Okay, the Google search warrant. They argued that the defense failed to meet its burden to show the warrant was invalid, as no evidence was presented on its technical defects or lack of probable cause. They asserted the warrant was based on lawfully obtained phone evidence, and any taint was attenuated by the independent warrant process, and they noted the defense's arguments relied on the first two motions, which the state believed were unfounded. Interesting. So the key evidence. On February 27th of 2024, Detective Tadler and Detective Acosta, who both testified at this hearing on April 23rd, interviewed Sterns in a parking lot. We have listened to those police audio interviews. Go listen again, okay? As I say, it's on the playlist. Sterns unlocked his phone multiple times, allowing Detective Tagler to check maps, history, and settings. Detective Tagler noticed minimal data due to a factory reset, which Sterns claimed was accidental. Yeah, oops. Just took those 7 steps to factory reset it twice. Why twice? Why the second time? Oh, just to make sure, huh? So, didn't work. At 8 p.m., Detective Tagler seized the phone, and at 12:16 a.m. on February 28th, Sterns consented to a forensic download after being told that a warrant was an alternative. The defense says that was an ultimatum, that they basically cornered him with that. Again, I'll say he was an adult. Bit of a man-child, but an adult nonetheless, and he could say no. He could literally say no. I find it ironic that Stephan Sterns is sitting there complaining about consent based on the crimes that he's accused of committing against a little girl from age like 8 to 13. You know? So anyway, there he sits complaining about consent that he gave. Anyway, the phone, placed in airplane mode, preserved data that repopulated from Sterns' Google account, revealing CSAM evidence. The search occurred during a missing child investigation, not a CSAM probe. Yes, surveillance footage, tag reader data, and Sterns' inconsistencies, lies, otherwise known as blatant lies, example claiming that he dropped Madeline off at school, prompted the phone search. Because that's a good question. What the hell prompted the phone search? Why would they touch his phone? Because he lied about his whereabouts, about Madeline Soto, about her laptop that he threw away in the trash at 7:35 a.m. on February 26th of 2024. He lied about going to McDonald's with her, dropping her off at school, everything. That's why they started looking at him and his phone. They wanted to see location data to see, well, where the hell would she be? Where was he last with her? He was the last person seen with her. So who testified at the hearing on April 23rd of 2025? A very important hearing. Stephan Sterns. He testified briefly, confirming the phone was his and that he only consented to law enforcement checking Google Maps and his Google login status. Now, let us watch that clip, shall we? Here we go.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to enter into this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, can you please state and spell your last name for the record?
Stephan Sterns, Sterns.
And Mr. Sterns.
I don't have a poker face. Like, dude, do you want to eat the microphone? Back it up, bro. I know the audio was bad, but holy crap, look at this guy go. So I hope the captions help this time because we were all like, huh? What is he saying?
Did you come into contact with law enforcement in January of 2024?
I did.
During your contact with law enforcement, did they seize or take an item from you?
Yes, they did.
What item was that?
That would be my cell phone.
Do you know what type of cell phone it was?
It was a Samsung Galaxy, I believe it was a 24.
And what was your understanding, if any, as to what they were going to do with it?
They were just going to check my Google Maps and check to see if I was logged into Google, and that was it. That was all I agreed to.
Were you shown?
Objection. That is not all you agreed to. They said, do you mind if we download your entire phone? And you said, yeah, that'll be fine. Liar, lying, perjury already. The first time he testifies, lying on the stand right here. He's not even on the stand. He's just sitting his ass here on this chair. Okay, just hold me back. I can snark so much about this guy. Okay, carry on.
They did not.
No further questions, Judge.
Thank you. Any cross requested?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Fennell?
Mr. Sterns, you briefly discussed having a conversation or being interviewed by Detective Tagler and Detective Acosta on February 27th. Is that correct? Of last year?
That's correct.
And pursuant to the questions you were just asked, you had indicated that you did not consent to the search of your cell phone.
I consented only to them looking at the Google Maps and checking to see if I was logged into Google in the first place.
Did you have the opportunity to see what law enforcement
No, you didn't.
was doing on your cell phone?
No, as Acosta was still talking to me, Tagler walked away and began searching all the things that I did not consent to.
Now that was a difficult sentence to hear. But he's basically saying that Detective Tagler walked away? Detective Tagler says she was shoulder to shoulder with him the whole time. Detective Acosta was there. And based on how much this guy lies, I think they did eventually walk away after they gave him his phone back, which is why the state asks this next.
Isn't it true that she actually handed your phone back to you?
Briefly, when she told me to input my PIN because it had locked itself.
Yeah, to input your birthday. So put the passcode in because it had locked itself.
And Detective Tagler actually mentioned looking at your history, which you okayed, correct?
Oh, objection outside of the scope. No, but that's very important, though.
Your Honor, can we approach?
Yeah, come on up.
Defense didn't like that.
And the cell phone in question was in fact your cell phone.
Yes, it was.
I don't have any report.
Thank you.
And that was it. No redirect, no nothing else. Just that was, in fact, your cell phone. Yes, it was. Okay. Okay, so let's look who else testified. Detective Francis Hunt. He interviewed Sterns on February 27th of 2024 at noon, described Sterns as cooperative, coherent, and not groggy despite waking up recently. Detective Myra Tagler detailed interactions with Sterns, including multiple consents to search the phone, maps, history, settings, and forensic download, confirmed that Sterns was free to leave, not coerced, and never limited consent. Detective Louis Acosta corroborated Tagler's account, noting Sterns's nonchalant demeanor, the open setting and no coercive tactics, confirmed the phone was factory reset, raising suspicions. Then Sergeant Darko Stamnik explained the forensic download process, confirming the phone was in airplane mode to preserve data, noted factory resets required deliberate steps, and that Google Cloud data repopulated post-reset. And then there was Deputy Taylor Heller, drafted the Google search warrant affidavit confirming its accuracy. So that's who all testified. If you didn't see that and you want to put some faces to the names and the voices we've heard from these police audio interviews, then yeah, go check it out. What was the outcome of the hearing? Everybody wants to know. I made a YouTube short for you too, so if you missed that, then remember, check out my community posts and or my YouTube shorts section, because sometimes if there's just a quick update, then that's how I do it. I update you like that, a quick YouTube short, a pinned comment, a community post. I updated you in all those ways yesterday, but here we are with a full summary for those of you who may have missed all of that, some of that. Okay, so the outcome of the hearing. The judge will rule on the motions, the 3 motions that were argued, by June 30th of 2025. The trial date has been postponed. It was set for May 5th of 2025, and it's now been rescheduled for July 14th of 2025. The pre-trial hearing will take place now on July 2nd of 2025. I look forward to that as well. There should be cameras in the courtroom there, and there should be witnesses there too, I would assume. I don't know. I'm just glad that so far they've had cameras in the courtroom. Now, I don't know if this trial will be live streamed, if there will be cameras in the courtroom, given the nature of the crimes, right? The CSAM related charges. I don't know if the judge will let that be streamed or anything, but if they do, of course we will be watching that trial together. I do think the homicide trial will be live streamed, but this first one, I'm not sure. Either way, make sure that you are subscribed with your notifications on so that you don't miss an upload. In this case and other cases. I see many of you are very interested in following this case with me. If you like my style of presenting true crime, if you like these bullet points, presentations, map time, deep dives, documents, the video interviews, the audio interviews, I do that for all cases. I have the same MO. Okay, and so if you like this coverage, I'm sure you'll like some of the other cases. Some cases I feel they could really do with a bit of a boost, you know, for awareness. I recently covered the case of Marsha Norman, an 82-year-old lady who was brutally murdered, allegedly by her handyman. So go check that if you haven't yet. Emily Pike's case is also very important, unsolved. They haven't caught her killers at all. There's so many others that I've recently been covering that I would love for you to check out if you haven't seen them yet. So yeah, look at Sterns there with his new haircutty. Buzz cut, probably because he's so damn greasy. Because this guy doesn't shower for weeks. How do we know? Because I regularly get his jail records. I get his commissary records and his jail activities, his logs, his whatever. His parents are still in contact with him. They're supporting him. They're sending him parcels, packages, calling him, all that. We just cannot yet. We can't right now get his jail calls up to present date. I've tried, but they say you would need like a subpoena and all of that. So we at this point kind of rely on the district attorney's office to be releasing some of these jail calls, which thankfully they did for May and June of 2024. I can't wait to hear more of them. As soon as we get more of them, of course, we're going to react to them. Because that guy, can you imagine? He probably called his mommy and daddy right after this freaking hearing. Anyway, so if you've never seen me read through the jail records and things, we often do that actually on members only streams. So I think we've done 2 or 3 of those where we go over those jail records and then we snark it up. Him and his freaking root beer barrels. Oh my word. If we have to hear root beer barrels one more time. Him and his candy. Him and his denying himself showers. He doesn't want to. Refuses showers. He needs 4 guards. He asks for 4 guards to walk with him if he's going anywhere, to the shower or out, wherever, for some recreation time, because, he's segregated right now for his own protection, which makes sense based on the charges he's facing. Can you imagine? Ooh. I really actually hope, even though he's facing the death penalty, that gets taken off the table so you can go to Gen Pop, LWAP. Whew, that'll be so hectic. Can you imagine? Anyway, let me stop talking now. I think I've updated you with what's important right now. I hope that you feel like, okay, that was a good summary. Now I know what the hell happened there. And if you do feel like going to watch that entire hearing, I would recommend it if you have the time. Just pop it on in the background or whatever and just listen in, because it's always very interesting. I look forward to justice for Madeline Soto. I will keep you posted on everything going on in this case and all the other cases that we are following. And in the meantime, stay safe.